Morning, guys. Happy Friday. I just want to give you your focus for today's on the project so that you can complete it. If you get it done during the day, then you don't have anything to do for me over the weekend. So enjoy the weekend. Tomorrow's supposed to be gorgeous. So what you're doing today is you're adding another slide or two to your Google slideshow, or if you're doing an infographic, Prezi, whatever you're doing. And you're going to complete number 4, which is the Constitution. If you don't know what a constitution is, literally just look it up on Google, or you can go to YouTube, and there's a lot of short videos there as well that can explain it. Basically, the Constitution is the guiding document that tells how our government runs, what our government can do, what it can't do, that sort of thing. It's essentially a contract to make sure that the government is doing its job. So you have two things here that you have to do. If you look at this, it says A is at least 5 items, B is at least 5 items. So these can be bullet pointed. You can just number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a list of 10 things total at the minimum. So for me, in my head, I would make this 2 separate slides just to be able to space things out. If you can get it onto one slide and it looks okay, then great. Your first item is, or your first part of this, the first 5 items, are going to explain the basic principles of your government, meaning how is your government basically set up. If you kind of cheat down to Monday's work, the governing body goes into more depth about this. So this is kind of more basic. So if you were to look at our Constitution, our Constitution establishes that there's 3 main branches. We use separation of powers, meaning the president can do one thing, Congress does something else, and there's the Supreme Court, your third branch, right? And they kind of check on each other. They all have separate powers of what they can do. So you might mention something like that, how are you physically setting up your government? How are they checking on each other? What are the rules for that government, if there are rules for that government? And kind of who's in charge here? What are they doing? So set up those 5 items. Again, be creative with this. This doesn't have to be super realistic. You can be as creative as you want with this, as long as it ties back to your problem focus. So if my problem focus that my utopia solving is climate change, I would imagine that I would have something in my government that oversees the utopias, making sure that climate change is controlled for, right? I would have a climate council, maybe, just because it sounds cool. And that climate council would be in charge of controlling the climate for my bubble of my utopia. Right. And I might have rules for the government that establish things that support that climate control. Then B, 5 items that establish the basic rights of a citizen. So the first 10 amendments in our Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. And again, you can look this up on Google or on YouTube if you need a little bit more explanation. But these Bill of Rights are the rights that all of us have. And you guys have heard these before, right? The right to freedom of speech, the right to bear arms and have weapons, the right to meet together, religious freedom, that sort of thing. So you're going to come up with at least 5 things that every person living in your society has the right towards. Again, this can be creative. It can be really focused on your focus problem. So if I'm doing climate change, right, am I going to give a right that every person can choose in their home what type of alternative power they use? They use wind power, solar power, but maybe my government sets out the fact that you have to use one of them since it's, a greener alternative. So be creative, have fun, tie it back to your issue, but it can even be the basic types of rights like we have, freedom of speech, freedom to gather, that sort of thing. So if I'm going on to my Google slideshow, or however you're completing this, again, this should be added onto your, oops, I moved it, wrong spot, posted to the assignment on Classroom. So I'm going to do a slide for Constitution, and I got to peek back. This is basic principles of government, right? And then you can literally number it. So if you come up in your toolbar, you will see a couple different options here. Here you have the 1, 2, 3, which will give you a numbered list. And then here's your bulleted list. So if I want 5, I could literally just choose, I like these numbers, right? And I'm going to go through, and whatever it would be, I would give my 5 items, right? And then I'm going to make a separate slide after this, and here would be rights of citizens. And I'm going to do the same exact process. Have that done by today, guys. Thanks.